Let's make this interactive Excel dashboard in just 7 minutes, like and save for later. I got these time cards from ontheclock.com, and now I'm going to select all of my data and go to Insert Pivot Table. We need to make 4 separate pivot tables. So our first one is going to be employee name and overtime hours for our overtime chart. So I'm just going to type in overtime here so it's really clear when we have to refer back to these. This one's going to be time off to the right. And let's repeat that process. We selected all of our data and we went up to Insert Pivot Table, and we're going to select existing and select where we set our title. So now we've got our pivot table, and I'm going to add employee name, and then we need hours for each time off type that we have, which are 3. Now we've got that information. Then I'm going to go back to repeat this again. This is how you insert a pivot table. Click the little arrow for existing, and we're going to put it on the same sheet. So for this one, we want to be able to see total hours by date. We want to look at every single day this week and see how many hours people worked. And then this last one over to the right, this is another way to repeat a pivot table. You can simply copy the pivot table and paste it. So here we're going to make adjustments. We're going to put different fields down here so that we've got our kits made, and we want to know kits by employee. So now we've got our 4 pivot tables. This could be anything that you're tracking, but these are just for our example. So now what I'm going to do is go to pivot chart up at the top, and we need to make our different charts. So for overtime, it's going to be a pie chart. Right click on this to hide those fields on all of the charts. And now let's Control X and Control V to paste this on our actual dashboard. I need to move this around and resize it. So I'm just going to grab that right side, little circle, and move it. Now with this pivot chart, we want this one to be a little bit different. So we're going to go back up to the top again. And this time we're going to do a column chart. Let's make it a 3-dimensional one. Hit OK. And you need to right click again to repeat that step where you're hiding the fields. We don't need to see the gray fields. Looking good. So again, Control X and then Control V on our actual dashboard to paste it. And then at some point here, we're going to resize this a little bit more, but looking good. Next, we're going to go back again and do our total hours chart. So this time, this could be a line chart. So we're going to go back up again, insert a pivot chart, and let's find the line chart. Looks good, hit OK. And again, you have to repeat that right click to hide those fields and press the title and delete along with the legend. So Control X and Control V to paste it. We need to move this one around, and we're going to make this the entire width of the dashboard. So we've got that resized, and then while we're at it, let's fix this one and shrink this down a bit. Now mine is shrunk down a bit more just so you can see everything on the screen, but you can adjust this to whatever size your monitor is. So I'm going to right click here because we want to make some changes. We want to make this line a little bit thicker and orange. And then on the marker, we want it to be a circle and we want it to be larger. So we're going to go with the built-in one, and let's pick the circle and then increase the size on that. And you can change the color to whatever you want here. So I actually did an orange border here, and we could just leave it blue. Makes the dots pop a little bit, but looking good. Now you can clearly see. Let's right click on this because we want to add data labels. So you can center these, you can put them above, below, whatever's easiest to read. And let's close out of that. Much easier to see. Now for our last chart, let's go back up again to a pivot chart. And then this one, we're going to do a bar chart. So let's go down and find bar, hit OK. And then same thing, yet again, we need to click on the title, delete, and then right click to hide those fields and get rid of the legend. So we're going to Control X and Control V onto the actual dashboard. You can't see this very well, but in a second I'm going to zoom out so it's a little bit easier to see what we're doing, but we're just resizing this and putting it in place. So now you have all of your charts. So what we need to do is resize these a little bit because we are going to add slicers. So insert a slicer, and for this first one, we want it to be date. We want to be able to click a button for each of the dates of the week that we have and see these items adjust. So we're going to move this and resize it. And let's resize it down just a little bit more because we're going to change the column count, and that's going to allow each date to have a button going horizontal. So go up to slicer and then on buttons, and we're gonna increase the column count. Now you've got your buttons for each date. Test it out, it's working well. Now report connections up at the top is where you can go if you wanna connect two charts to a single slicer. So whenever I pick a different date, I wanna see the total hours change along with the kits made. I wanna see for each day how many hours were worked and how many kits were generated. So now again, we can go through here and do some formatting. Let's change the colors up on our chart. You should make these brand appropriate for you. I'm gonna go with orange just for a color pop and then some different shades of gray. And then same thing over here. These bars are a little bit skinny, so it's a little bit difficult because again, I shrunk this down so you can see it on a mobile phone, but your chart will probably be much easier to work with. So you wanna make sure you're clicking on each bar and it's highlighting the appropriate ones. And I made a mistake there, so we're gonna undo that. And make sure you change the colors appropriate to whatever makes sense for you. And then we will do one more solid fill here. Let's do a light gray and then close out of this. So we need to move this down because we also want a slicer here. So here we wanna be able to insert a slicer and we want to be name. So we want to be able to see the employee names and be able to click on each one to filter. So we want to see for each employee how many different types and how much time off did they have. So I'm just moving this in place again, and we changed the column count. So now we've got smaller buttons, and that's looking a lot better. Now, if you go up to the different styles, you can change the colors on these. Let's change these to a gray shade, and then let's go back. So now as you test it out, you can click each button and everything is working. Looking good. And to remove this, you can click on the little filter icon in the slicer and it will go back to how it was. But let's format this as well, and let's change this color again to that nice bright orange so it really pops. And you've got your dashboard. So I just cleared the filter by clicking on the filter icon and I'm just testing it out. Looking great.